All right. Moving on to second position.
What is it? Let's get out of here.
We've got this far, we must go on. We have to go on.
Alien is a film defined by its slow pace, sexually loaded imagery, and a philosophy of show, don't tell. Originally pegged as a B-movie to be rushed through production after the success of Star Wars, it went on to become one of the defining films in both the horror and sci-fi genres. Everyone knows Alien for its visual style, the so-called retro-future aesthetic. The Nostromo is no clean, well-oiled spaceship speedily zipping through space. It's cramped, dirty and slow-moving, towing a whole refinery. The interiors are grimy, the rooms cluttered, and the corridors lined with pipes, spacesuits and machinery. This, alongside the menacing design of the alien itself, makes for fantastic set design. The titular alien feels both completely foreign and curiously well adapted to the ship. Take this scene, cut from the original theatrical release. The alien's construction is obviously not human design, appearing somewhat organic and almost alive, yet it suits and almost mirrors the mechanical collections of pipes and tubing on the machinery next to it. Within the ship, and perfectly complementing the fondly dubbed truckers in space aesthetic, are the crew. The crew are introduced after the setting is. The helmets in the cockpit and the spacesuits set up in the junctions of the claustrophobic passageways are shot almost as though they were characters themselves, before the crew are finally introduced. Throughout the film, suits are donned and lost, the comparative frailty of the crew juxtaposed with the perfect organism in the alien. Kane's helmet is melted through almost instantly by the facehugger, while, despite the tools at Ash's disposal, the cutting open of the helmet is a careful and comparatively slow process. And the suit's removal leaves him looking totally helpless and frail, the facehugger clearly superior. This of course isn't significant in any way by itself, but the removal of Kane's suit is mirrored by the donning of Ripley's suit at the end of the film. Of course there's a difference. Ripley isn't wearing the suit to protect herself from the alien, where Kane's suit was removed to demonstrate his frailty. Rather, she slips into the suit for the protection it offers against a deoxygenated environment. Strength is repeatedly shown as useless against the alien. A calm head and well-reasoned response, on the other hand, lead to the only moments where the alien seems vulnerable, and rash or emotional choices seem to lead to the demise of most of the crew. In a way, one could interpret Ripley's song she sings to calm herself down at the end of the film as a more important or useful tool or weapon than the flamethrowers she used previously. She keeps her head, and because of this she eventually succeeds in blowing the alien out of the escape pod. Take the scene in which Dallas is taken, for instance. The moment Dallas is taken comes as a direct result of poor communication from Lambert and a panicked reaction from Dallas.
Move! Get out of there! Don't you move! Down! Move down! Move down! Get out!
This scene, as many in the film do, has something of a call and response in the sequence of events. After Dallas is taken, the very next scene is Parker dumping his flamethrower on the table. A particularly obvious example, but one of my favourites from the film, occurs in this scene. Brett looks into the falling water, enjoying the feeling as it hits his face. Immediately afterwards, after he is killed, his fellow engineer, Parker, is spattered with his blood as he looks towards the same lights Brett was looking at moments before. There's the setup. Brett's human and natural gesture, followed by the entirely unnatural shower of blood onto Parker, the crew member closest to Brett. Much and more has been said about the sexual imagery of Alien. It's no secret that rape imagery has a large influence on much of the film's design and what makes the alien so horrifying. It reproduces by finding a host like a parasite, then forcibly impregnating it with its child, killing you once it is born. If you want to know more about the influence sexually charged imagery has had on the film, there are many analyses or interviews that discuss this aspect. I don't particularly feel the need to discuss it further, as anything I would say has already undoubtedly been said. But it would be suffice to say that these elements really add another layer to the film, and some might even argue something of a social commentary. What really sets the film apart from other horror films I've seen since would have to be the way characterization and character development are handled, the subtlety with which every actor portrays their role, and the way the pecking order is reshuffled throughout the film's length. The first thing you notice is the aforementioned pecking order. The engineers, Parker and Brett, are paid less and aren't taken seriously when talking about the bonus situation. But the film conveys it in a much more clever way later on when Ripley goes down to confront the engineers over their estimated time span for repairs.
What did you say, Rick?
If you have any trouble, I'll be on the bridge.
Hey, Ripley, come back here!
They swap quips and lines, all of which feel natural. Thankfully they aren't overwritten and actually sound like normal conversation. There aren't any killer lines or comebacks, it's just cheap banter that feels character-driven and natural rather than forced and inappropriately clever. Getting back on track though, Ripley, with some knowledge of engineering and electronics, is looked down upon by the engineers working in the lower decks for being a part of the main crew. Ripley, almost always on the money for how to appropriately handle the situations the alien has thrown at the crew, is repeatedly ignored or dismissed, be it for her rank in the company or for the hardline advice she offers. When Dallas is off the ship, she is commanding officer and issued orders that would have saved all of the crew aside from Kane, but is immediately undermined by Ash for reasons we learn later. When Ripley challenges the procedure Dallas is taking as being non-standard, she is dismissed for a lack of understanding of the corporate structure.
Just tell me how you can leave that kind of decision to him.
Look, I just run the ship. Anything that has to do with the science division, Ash has the final word.
How does that happen?
It happens, my dear, because that's what the company wants to happen.
Since when is that standard procedure?
Standard procedure is to do what the hell they tell you to do.
These moments all come from Weyland-Yutani's orders to varying degrees, and it's these moments that make the argument that Alien is making some kind of social commentary have a bit of weight. A woman who was ultimately right but ignored by her company is something of a loaded image given the context of the film, but other videos and articles have looked at this with far greater depth than I could hope to. I recommend searching them out if you're interested in this sort of thing. Parker too is ignored when asking about Kane's condition, and different characters have different levels of influence throughout the film. After first waking up, Parker jokes with Kane. Both engineers only talk with each other and Kane outside of their work, and the impression is one of respect and possibly a friendship. Kane is well liked by the main crew as well, and after he is gone, the communication between the two groups seems worse for it. After Brett's death, Parker is given more respect for his physical strength, and the dynamics of the group shift again. After taking responsibility of the tracking device and failing to properly warn or guide Dallas, Lambert has something of a crisis of faith and becomes paralyzed by her fear, in the end quite literally, and all the while Ripley is given more respect as she is increasingly seen to have a natural talent for leadership. Roles shift with different situations, and again, thankfully, these moments aren't told to us. There's no moment where Parker says Ripley is in charge, or where Dallas tells Parker he's the most physically capable. These are all inferences the audience are allowed to make for themselves, thanks again to the superb performances and subtly brilliant writing. Alien is more than a good sci-fi or horror film. It's a good film, period. Everything from the largely subtle score and the performances to the writing and set design are all incredible in their own right, but in conjunction with each other are made even better. Alien, to me, feels designed like a clock, all of the small pieces, cogs and wheels, coming together to form something that seems simple and functional on the surface, never revealing its complexity to those that aren't looking to find it. So that's it. That's my take on Alien, one of my all-time favourite films. If you've got any advice, criticisms, or topics for videos, I'd love to hear them. I'm always looking to improve my work. Cheers, have a good one.